Founder of several different companies and also CEO, Fazri Zubair. Welcome to the show.
Hi, nice to meet you guys. Thank you for having me.
Nice to meet you as well. Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on tonight.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'm your host, Kevin.
And I'm your co-host Brian. And I just want to highlight this fly hat that I got on right here. It's from our friends at Ape and Bird. You can find them at apenbird.com.
Awesome. So welcome to the show, Faz. I see
Thanks.
you've co-founded a ton of different companies.
For better or
Keep
for worse.
keeping busy.
For
Yes.
better or for worse, exactly.
No, we live in an amazing time and a great opportunity for up and coming software developers. So some opportunities, some challenges with AI, but like realistically, there is more opportunity right now to develop ideas into products, get a market, and create something of value. So it's really exciting. I'm too young for the initial web software boom of like the 2000s. I was still in school, but I feel like AI has kind of brought a boom back, but it's a very different one. You got to figure out how to position yourself.
Yeah, I think like let's just say 2012 to 2020s, that it was excellent for getting a job in tech, but
Yeah.
now that's kind of diminished. And I think the solopreneur or entrepreneurial route is more in vogue with AI, since you can get so much done quickly, and companies are not
Right.
hiring as many technologists.
I feel like it's almost counterintuitive to these companies. Like they have slowed down their hiring practices to see what AI can do. And I've been
Right.
working with AI now the last 3 years heavily with my companies. And there is a point, like we get callbacks all the time from companies we were talking to about doing AI integrations. And they're like, all right, we tried this internally with our team. We hit a wall. How do we build this? How do we do
Right.
that? How do we not spend $20,000 a month on tokens? There is a great opportunity, especially for those engineers out there that are effectively using the tools and know how to deploy them well. I think there's a lot of noise on social media, vibe coding this, even solo entrepreneurs. Like it's a great way to start, but there is a point where you do need a foundation and you do need a team built around you, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
understanding when to initiate that point is really important.
Yeah, I think that's a mistake a lot of companies are making. They're looking at AI as a developer replacement versus a powerful tool in the hands of the right developers.
Exactly. You basically
Right.
now have a whole team of 10x, where before you might have a one 10x engineer and a bunch of regulars.
Exactly. So, like, you kind of mentioned that you work with some of these companies to help them
Yeah.
get past the roadblocks. So, what are some of these roadblocks, and what did you do to move them past that particular roadblock?
Yeah, absolutely. Like one of the companies I'm heavily involved in and co-founded is called PlayCube Technologies, and we've been doing a lot with AI for the last 3 years now. We started with some initial AI detection utilities to see, basically identify deep fakes. Early on, we had a
Right.
couple congressmen and senators using it. We have a patent on the technology. It was great, but what happened with that, and this is like typical entrepreneur journey. We invested the time, we built the product, we got some customers, but we quickly saw like it was easier for companies to implement internal policies to determine like if something's AI or not than spend the money to actually analyze every bit of content coming through. So, for example, the big concern was you could imitate a CEO and get him to wire money out, like contact the CFO, say, "Hey, send money to this account,"
Mm.
and he'd do that. The easiest way to prevent that is you just have roadblocks. If the CEO calls you on a web video conference, it's like wire some money out. It's like, great. What's the security word? Or call me on your cell phone. Or like there were things that you could do to check if it was really him. And
Yeah.
companies realized
Right.
real quick like that was a better option. So as we were building with that, we continued to experiment with the technology, and we kind of hit a breakthrough when it came to, it's funny, there's a name for this now, but there wasn't a name for it back when we started, like agentic systems and harnesses. We basically
Right.
took the fundamental LLMs 2 years back and we wrote code around it to kind of help it. We wrote tooling before MCP servers, and our big focus was stock analysis. So my two other co-founders, Randy and Octavio, they're serial entrepreneurs. They've sold multiple companies, and they had a hedge fund in the past. And they
Oh,
had
wow.
attempted this in the early 2000s, like to do some AI assisted hedge fund. So we wanted to take another crack at that with now LLMs and the technology that's currently available. And we ended up finding this amazing opportunity. We ended up building our own custom harness, and we were able to analyze the entire stock market, take SEC filings, news reports, all the valid and relevant documentation for all 8,000 stocks that exist, and basically distill it down and look at it through a value investing analysis. So this is like what Warren Buffett does.
Yeah.
Looks if a company truly has value and
Right.
is generating capital, not a meme stock, not like the alpha is up and like day trading. No, this is just like company sells this for X and has this much margin and their moat is this strong. This is a good buy. The challenge is it would take an analyst 40 hours to go through each stock, and it was a very human time consuming effort. Well, an agentic system, a great designed harness is able to really compress that down. So we've gotten the system down now to the point where once a month we analyze all 8,000 stocks. It distills it down for us, and we're able to see opportunities.
Wow.
One of the ones in our initial test case actually happened last year. It was June of last year. Our system flagged Kodak, the camera company. And what it had flagged was it saw that Kodak had an overfunded pension. It was like $1.5 billion. And that was significantly more than cash that it had on hand. But it also saw that there was litigation filed to claim some of that pension back because no one was going to use it all. And if that claims some of that pension back, it would dramatically increase their cash holdings and increase the value of the company. So while the stock was at $4, it identified the stock should be at $6. 5 months later, litigation completes, stock jumps to $7. Wow. That was like one of the multiple cases where like the system, all the information was there. If you were an analyst working at a hedge fund and you were looking at Kodak, you would have saw the same thing. But we're 4 people. We're not going to read every SEC report out there. So that's to go back to your question, that's the kind of things we're doing now for other companies. So we look at what problems they have, and then we look at how we can build harnesses and systems that are able to solve tangible issues. And we focus less on like email automation. There's a million solutions for that. More like workload automation. If you need to do heavy research and you're compiling reports and you're connecting disparate data, can we build a harness that really does the work for you, or simplifies the work, or lets one person do the work of 100 people?
That's pretty crazy, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a cool piece of tech we developed, and it took a while. Like, we've been working on this like a joke. Like, agentic really is a term in the last 6 months to a year. And like last year, we didn't have a term for this, but that's what we're doing. Even there's a concept of recursive LLM. It was our initial ability to be able to basically counter the token limit. You can only have 1 million tokens in something. Well, an SEC report might be 1.5 million. We used the effective solution of what is now called recursive LLM to do the same thing a year before that happened. But I think it's like parallel development. I'm a decent engineer. There's a lot of great engineers out there. We're all thinking along the same lines. It's just taking that and implementing it.
So for those who are not aware, what exactly is a harness?
So a harness is basically, think of it as like when you harness an animal. Like, let's say you're going to ride a horse, putting a saddle on it, putting its harness on there, it gives you control of the creature and lets you direct in which way you want to go. So an AI harness is effectively that. We're writing software code that sits around an LLM. It'll give it specific prompts. It will pull in tool data. It will basically guide it to complete a specific task, make sure it stays on track. Typically, like Claude Code is a great example of a generic harness. Codex is a great example of a harness. Cursor is a great example of harness. Harness is kind of all-encompassing, a tool that connects to a foundation model and then lets you execute some type of task. We specialize in custom harnesses. Like, you could go into Claude Code and try to cobble something together to accomplish like what we did. But then there's also going to be limitations. Like, Claude Code will fill up the context window, won't understand the tooling right, maybe doesn't have a specific skill for doing deep analysis or forensic accounting. Those are all components we made. Multiply the number of agents running them, having them do their discrete jobs, and then combining it together to create that final report.
Oh, awesome. Brian, did you have any question?
I guess I'm wondering, where was the beginning of all of this? Like, how did Because it seems to me it's like this is sort of out of nowhere what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of companies are finding, oh, okay, we're lagging behind because we haven't found this yet. So where did it really begin?
Well, I was born in. No, I'm just kidding. Where did it really begin? Like, it really comes down to problem solving. Like, I'm an entrepreneur now for the last 12 years, and it's usually we see a problem and we try to tackle it, or we see an opportunity. Is like, how can we solve this? And this was a problem that my partners had in the past when they tried to do an AI driven hedge fund. And the system that we created on Vault was basically our chance to kind of retackle that problem that still exists and see if today's technology can actually meet that and then exceed what they were able to do in the past. And that's kind of how we determined to get there. Like, and being an entrepreneur and being a software engineer, like, we have so many tools available to us today. And really, you see these videos all the time on social media, like people having these really dynamic 15 agents running to, and I'm always like, what are they working on that they need 15 agents? They're spending $1,000 a day on tokens. And I feel like a lot of them, it's clickbait, right? Just trying to get views. But that is an indicator that there is something out there that can do a lot of work if you know what you're trying to accomplish. That's like step one. You figure out your problem and then you try to accomplish it or create a solution around it. So where it came from, I mean, it came from just us sitting around in a room thinking about problems and how we could solve them, and being tech entrepreneurs, what we could build to address those.
So to kind of discern the fluff from the actual factual reality of how AI can be beneficial. Like, let's just take your example of creating a venture fund that's based around AI. Just based on like what people are saying it could do versus what it's actually good at. Can you kind of paint that story?
Yeah, absolutely. So you see this all the time on social media. You'll see someone's having a stock trading bot. It's making them like $1 million a month. And that's just fluff and garbage. If that actually existed, they're not going to sell you a class on how to build it. They're just going to do it. And
they're going to do it themselves and make all the money.
Correct. And even automation automation at this level, like, it still requires a person in there. Like, my partners are very financially savvy and they've done this type of investing for years. And what the AI is letting us do is accelerate the amount of research they can do. It could do thousands of reports a day, highlight which ones he then needs to read. He analyzes and makes investments based on that. So it's adding this extra layer that's able to accomplish a lot of work and distill the information down. And I think that's the way you should look at AI. Even when we're using it for software development, none of my developers across my companies are like, build this, walk away for 3 hours and come back and it's like, it's done. No, they spend a good amount of time framing the right architecture for it, building really good test cases for it. They'll let it run for 20 minutes or an hour or so, but then they're validating. They're going through and they're making sure it did it correctly and it followed correct principles and security practices. I think that's how you should always look at AI. It's an amazingly powerful tool that does need a little bit of verification, like a second step to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty in depth what you're talking about.
It was funny. We had a conversation with another company that like was in the similar space, and they're like, "Oh, we could just build this ourselves." And I just think to myself, like, yeah, actually, I would love you to go and try and build this yourself, and then come back to me in 6 months, and then we'll do it better for you. Because we went through so much iteration. Not to toot our own horn here, it's just this is software is still complicated, and I think any software engineer out there watching this should understand, like, your job is probably secure. There are some changes, and you do need to be up to date on the latest technology, but it's still a very much creative and logical process. Top engineers at FANG companies don't spend majority of their time writing lines of code. What AI has replaced is the manual effort of writing code. You still need to be able to think creatively, implement well, have good common sense, and understand what technologies exist. The difference now is every individual developer is a team lead. The AIs are a team, but it's not just going to be build me a web app, and then you walk away and come back. It's all right, I need it built on Expo.js. It needs to have an Android build and iOS build. I'll generate you the certificates for it. It needs to use this security layer. I want to use Superbase for the database. I want to use Kubernetes for the Docker containers for the backend. Like, understanding each of those components, how they deploy, what their scalability is really important. I will say, like, to not shift topics slightly here, but like with building all this AI tech, you know, one thing that got me really excited, and this actually happened last summer, was like, what else can we build with this? And as we got to a point where I was able to take a little pause in heavy development with this, our AI financial product was just up and running.
Right.
I was on social media and I saw something really random, and I'm sure you guys have seen this too, but you see these little Bitcoin miners, the little lucky miners you could like plug in, and then you might mine a Bitcoin block. I got really excited. I'm like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing in the world. Like, I used to Bitcoin mine when, California power rates were reasonable. But I was like, great, let me buy one of these. I had some time. It was literally last August. I plugged it in the desk back there and turned it on. I looked on the pool website. I'm like, yeah, I'm mining. It took 30 minutes before the noise started bugging me. I'm like, okay, I can hear that fan. It took an hour before the room raised 5 degrees from this tiny little Raspberry Pi device. I'm like, this is not going to work, and I unplugged it. But here's where, like, this is what's changed now today. In a normal situation with a full-time company I'm running, I probably wouldn't have done this. But I have a lot of AI tools available, and I have a lot of knowledge. I'm like, all right, can I do this better? Can I find a way to give me the same experience? I want to solo mine Bitcoin. Can I fractionalize an industrial miner running in a facility in Texas? Can I write an app that gamifies it using my experience as a game developer to make it fun, interactive, interesting? And then can I sell subscriptions to users, $5 a month, which is about the same as it would cost me to run that BitAxe for a month with California power rates? Can I get to that price point and make a fun experience? And using AI, I was able to build out a beautiful UI. I designed a great interface for it. I thought through the technical process of how to fractionalize a miner. And this was actually the most interesting part. AI wasn't able to do it. So I tried initially, and it kept coming up with a solution that didn't work. You try to connect to the miner will generate an error, it'll give you false shares, the pool would reject it. So it took me about 2 months of actual software development research, looking at the ROM on the device and like, okay, how do I inject the header to actually be able to mine?
So that's sort of where you're coming across that, okay, humans are still required to meet these certain levels of what we're diving into, right?
Anyone could make a web dashboard now. That's trivial, right? But there are still serious problems that need to solve. Case in point, once we came up with that solution, we started shopping this idea around. We were talking to some mining companies, and they were actually surprised we were able to fractionalize a miner. It's large companies in the US, they've tried for multiple years and their engineering teams couldn't crack that. So by luck, circumstance, whatever it was, I was able to figure it out. We patent it right away. So we have a provisional patent on the technology that does it. And then we create this company, Lucky, around it. And basically all it is we enable anyone to solo mine Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash. But this is literally from August to December. December, we form a company. February, we launched the product. And I have a small team. I'm not soloing this by any means. I have about 4 people. Excuse my cat. 4 people that are heavily involved in this company and making sure it's going as our core team. And this was back in February. Now we're significantly larger, as month over month, we've seen user growth double. And it's been an amazing ride. One, because it was this crazy little skunkworks idea I started with. AI helped me enable and build a prototype really quickly and test the process. We were able to then raise some funds for it, hire a small team. And our team even right now is significantly smaller than any other team I would have had 2 years ago, because we're all leveraging AI to be more efficient and capable.
Would you say that AI is ultimately really helping you out in a large way?
Absolutely. I think as a software engineer, like, the world has changed. AI is here to stay. Learning how to utilize it as a tool and how it integrates into workflow is probably key for any developer out there.
Yeah, I think as an engineer, just getting into the industry now, your priorities shift. Before it was more so about syntax, learning frameworks, and so on and so forth. Now I think architecture and being able to audit code becomes more important. Like you have to know what systems need to be hooked up together to produce this result. You can tell the AI to say, hey, hook these up, and then you have to be able to look at the result and see whether it's delivering what what you specified.
Right.
Absolutely. It's very much analogous to an architect and a construction worker, right? An architect will design a building and give the instructions, and then construction workers will go out and put up the framing and actually build the building.
Right.
AIs are our construction workers. Like, give them proper instruction. Give them bad instruction, the door's in the wrong place, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, like somebody who's not that technically proficient, what do you suggest? Like, how do they bring AI in a company in a way that's not dangerous?
Yeah, absolutely. So that foremost, there's great resources out there to look
because
up.
there's
Like
been
basic.
situations. There's been situations. I know me and Kevin have talked about this where the AI mistakenly deletes the entire database of a company. So, like, how do you deal with that level of competence or incompetence? Like, that's a possibility for the AI to just go ahead and scrap the entire database. It's kind of, to me, it's kind of scary that that's possible.
Well, it's only possible if you're a lazy developer or a lazy vibe coder. Like, you're giving very vague instructions. I hate seeing one-line prompts or like, build me this app and like fix this problem. Don't make any mistakes. I'm like, really? That's not how neural nets work. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day. Yeah, the way you approach it is just like a software engineer. A junior software engineer that has full database access could do the same thing. It's happened to me before in my career. I've had junior developers accidentally, oops, I deleted this entire table or I dropped it. We go over, restore from backup. Like, no, don't do that. Well, how do we mitigate that? The same way we mitigate that with junior developers, we limit access. So when we create credentials for these developers, we make sure they can't do anything destructive. But if you're not a software engineer, not that harsh and vibe coders that have no software background, if you're just trying to jump in and do these complex things, you will make mistakes like that because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know that a fire door has to be at the back right corner of a building, for example, unless you're an architect that's used to building stuff like that. Don't know if that's true or not. I'm just using it as an example. Those are the things where, like, developers, even casual developers and part-time developers, and people looking to get into software development or going through boot camps, these are the things they teach you. They teach you really quick, like the important things to remember and basic architecture and design. Those are probably more important now than syntax. Like, I don't need to look up documentation anymore in Expo if I'm looking to see if it has a feature that I need. I could go into whatever AI I'm using and be like, can I access camera with Expo on Android? It's like, yeah, use the Expo camera frame kit, blah, 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 blah. And it'll give me all the documentation I need to go and implement that. That used to be going to Stack Overflow, searching through a bunch of comments, be like, oh, this looks right. Like, that was a 20-minute job.
Yeah, this might be right.
That was a 20-minute job before. Now it's like a 1-minute job. So it still requires you to know that you need to get a camera access plugin to do something specific. Can you just talk to a model like Fable and have it tell you that? Yeah. You're also going to spend $600 in 3 hours and then cry.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, like, smarter models are going to exist. They're going to get better, but they're also going to come at a cost. And that's where your value as a software engineer is. Like, you should have that knowledge to be able to say, this is how we should build it, and then utilize AI in a correct way or a light way to support you.
Yeah. I mean, that's so different than I went to a coding boot camp maybe 4 years ago, and there was no mention of AI, zero mention of AI. So I got out of the school, and then it was a Java school. So I get out as a Java developer. No one's hiring entry-level Java developers. So my coach, my mentor was like, hey, you got to go out and learn React. You got to go out and learn Angular if you actually want a job. And so I was just like, okay, great. I just spent an entire year learning Java, and now I can't even get employed using this technology. So how would you speak to that, where people are going to boot camps, they're learning certain skills, but then like ultimately there's no market for that skill?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to how I kind of got into software engineering in the first place. You kind of have to take the opportunities the world's provided us. Like, we have iOS and Android. If you don't have a skill in a particular space, let's say you don't know React or Angular, well, you could build an app using like Expo.js, which is a React framework, and deploy it to the iPhone store. And then when you're going to apply for a job, it'll be like, yeah, I have an app. I created a recipe app. Here you go. You can take a look at it. It's actually showing proof that you know what you're talking about and what you're doing. You might not have work experience, but you have experience that they could point to, review, and see. Me in particular, when I got back into software engineering, lifelong coder since I was 10 years old. I remember being on old DOS, QBasic, looking at the games that they had available and figuring out how I could modify to
you remember the snake game?
Yeah, exactly.
This is like a yellow snake.
I took that thing apart and tried to change what the snake looked like.
I did the same thing.
That's where our passion was, right? And I get to college. I have this horrible professor that says all the jobs are going to India. I panic and change my major. I ended up going international business and marketing, and ended up going into finance and then banking out of college. And that was the worst decision I probably made. I hated my job. The money was okay, but like I really, truly did not enjoy what I was doing. And fortunately for me, the iPhone came out. And when the iPhone came out, I'm like, all right, here's my opportunity. I want to get a job as a junior software developer. I had some base knowledge. I understood a lot from what I did. I never really gave up on programming, but it became more of a hobby. And I spent about a year and a half writing my first game, publishing it to the App Store. No one bought it. It was fun. It was quirky, but it wasn't getting any traction. But I used that. I applied to like 80 different game studios here in the LA area. And basically, number 81 hired me as a junior developer for a small amount of money. And I took it. I was like, yes, I need an entry into the industry. And from that, within a year, I was running the studio. So I think my experience, like actually going through finance and then management training through Citigroup, helped me because I was now an engineer that could sell and could speak well and basically come into a leadership role really quickly. So I was able to do my programming job well and lead a team.
And you mentioned something really important there, the ability to speak well, because I mean, I know this, I used to work in sales. So I learned all about like Carl Jung's, 16 different personality types. And you realize when you work in sales, you realize at a certain point, you have talked to all 16 type of different personality types. And you've now learned how to talk to all 16 different types of people, which will allow you to sell.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like it's funny. A lot of those books I remember because early banking and finance was sales. Like you're on the phone calling people about mortgages, trying to open new business lines of credit. How to win friends and influence people. There's a ton of little different sales books that like my managers at that time had me read. And a lot of that was really helpful in understanding people psychology and how to work well with people in the end.
Like Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich, another great book. I think that like I joke that I shouldn't have changed my major from software to banking and finance, but I also wonder if that was the case, would I still be an entrepreneur today? Would I have found the opportunities?
It's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question.
So like, how did you end up mixing, technology with finance? Because, they're not the same field. So how did you end up merging the two?
Honestly, the finance part kind of drifted away. Most of my experience has been in games and technology, but what the lessons I gained from finance, the salesmanship, the managerial skills, the teamwork, that stuff really applied to running an organization or working in a games team. Because we worked as game studios. And then as I progressed and eventually started my first company in 2014, that turned into leadership skills. So as a CTO running an organization, working with my other co-founders, always wearing multiple hats, a little bit of HR, a little bit of people management. It was just part of the game. And I think having that time in finance, working in consumer banking, retail banking, business banking, gave me the right mindset. I knew how to tackle this, where if I was just an engineer, I think I probably wouldn't have been as well suited for this.
Because that's the thing. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, a lot of engineers are just sort of like, okay, head down in the code, getting the code right, making sure everything's good. And when it comes to actually talking to people, their social skills are like really low. So it's, it's problematic in a situation like you're saying, where you're coming in as you're coming in as the CTO and you're structuring things like this and that. If you don't have those skills, how do you do it? Right.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And that's to the benefit of like those of you out there that are like trying to break into software engineering. I'm assuming at this point you're in another career, maybe it's something business related or consumer related or retail related. Take those skills with you. They're invaluable. Most of the engineers you meet, they might be better coders than you, but will they be able to problem solve or interface with people as well? Leverage that as your strength.
Exactly. I think, as I further my career in software, the technical skills, it's good. Like you could be a senior dev, but if you want to move past that, you're going to have to know how to work with other teams, communicate well, coordinate, collaborate. I think like those, you mentioned these soft skills are what propels you. Like at a certain point, you're not going to get that much higher just investing in purely technical skills. You have to move over to more of the social aspect because you start getting more hands off as you go up.
Yeah, that's very true.
I know a lot of people, they heard the term CTO, but they don't necessarily know what a CTO does. So like, how does a CTO bring value to a company? Like what were some of the things that you've done that, really form the basis of the technological base of a company?
Yeah, I take a lot of naps, play video games, stuff. As a CTO to a company, it's funny because I remember when I first got myself that title, I was like, all right, so what does this actually mean? In the end, like you look at it as being a software engineer, like do what you know, right? So as a software developer, you're building out an app. And now as a CTO of an organization, you have a team of people to help. The worst thing you could possibly do is try to take on the load yourself. If you're trying to do a little bit of everything or be involved in everything, it's going to fail. You really have to think of this position more as a structural lead. I keep going back to architect, but it's really, really a good analogy for this. So I know what we need to build. I know from our company's perspective, we're trying to build a Bitcoin mining app to empower users to solo Bitcoin mine. Cool. This is a start. Well, what do we need for that? Well, we need a server. We need a backend. We need something that the Bitcoin miners connect to. We need a front end interface, and it needs to be designed well and be intuitive and gaming like. So at that point, I know my big story features. Then it's like, who do I have in the company, or who do I need to go out and find that can actually execute on each of these? And which part of this can I work on reasonably without taking my attention and eye off the larger picture of the organization? Especially at a small company, like CTO at my level, at my size, is still very much individual contributor. I'm still committing code into our repositories. But I make sure that I'm not so heads down. I'm like stuck in I can't see the trees in the forest because I'm deep inside of it.
So you're kind of taking that point of, okay, you're having to do your own job, but then you're taking that step back, saying, okay, I can see like the forest through the trees. Like you're saying, like I could see the bigger picture as I might be doing my one small thing here, but I'm also looking at the bigger picture over here.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly right. And that's going to be the challenge for anyone coming into that role or being an independent entrepreneur. You're going to want to just go heads down, finish that feature. But especially if you're not alone, if you're working with a team, make sure that team's fully utilized. Don't let them idle if there are things they could help you with. And understand that not everyone's going to do things the same way you do. And doesn't mean it's wrong or incorrect. It might just mean it's different. So keep an open mind and look at how you can adapt that.
I think it's also a benefit that you're still in the code weed, so to speak, because I know sometimes, as you go up and you get further and further removed from the technology, you're not able to assess as well as somebody who's using it all day. And there's been companies where you have this CTO who's completely hands off, and they read about some technology and they're like, "Hey, I want to bring this into the company," and it's disastrous.
Yeah. Hey, look, my goal someday is to be a company big enough where I'm so hands off as a CTO. But I promise, and this could be the record of it, I won't do that to my staff. And I'm probably going to do that to my staff. Let's be real.
So I know sometimes you want to be the super developer, you want to do everything yourself. So like, how do you kind of back off of that and say, "Hey, I trust this guy over here. I'm a defer it and let him do it."
Right.
That's really hard. Look, I even solve that problem for myself sometimes. Lucky's a great example. It's a prototype that became a full-fledged app, which I wanted to add 100 features to, but I'm one person with multiple companies. I can't. And so when I got my developers on the team, I just had to be really thoughtful of like, what does this app really need? What can I work on, if anything, at what point? And then who should work on what piece? And really, you just got to break it down like that. I really want to. Every day, I look at the app and I'm like, I want to do this, 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 and I can fix this. And I know if I only had a week, I could do this. But that week could cost me so much in other opportunity, in growth, and strategic development. And in my scenario, working with multiple companies, I do have to make sure my time is spread out correctly.
So as a CTO, you're really having to step back and say, okay, Johnny is doing his job over here. Stacy is doing her job over here. But I just got to make sure the whole thing, the wheels keep churning. Everything keeps moving forward, right?
The pieces come together correctly.
Pieces coming together, yeah.
And I think it's important as that CTO, what you're doing is you're making sure you're controlling that quality. You're the head chef in the kitchen. You're tasting everything as it's coming through. It's really easy to get overwhelmed with tasks coming in, pull requests, and just be like, hey, I checked this. Oh, it looks good. Go. And then run off and push it to production. I really try not to make that mistake ever. We've done it before, and it's detrimental. Don't overly rely on AI to catch all your mistakes. It'll catch the coding mistakes, but it won't catch the conceptual mistakes.
Right.
So it's not going to notice that you're missing your terms of service button, which Apple's going to require or reject you from the App Store. It's going to catch that all the other buttons work on the screen. So can it catch that? Absolutely. If you spent time designing proper tests and really architected those test cases to address those.
I know
it goes back all the way full circle here.
I know a lot of times developers, they can kind of have the ADHD. They're incredibly talented, but if you let them do their own thing, this guy's going to go over here, this guy's going to go over there. And but if you want to get something done, you have to have that clear vision. And it's almost like corralling horses. Like, hey, everybody come over here and go in this direction. Like, what are some of your strategies for getting everybody in alignment and not letting each coder drift in their own direction?
I'm spoiled now because I've been working in this industry so long. I have some great developers that are just my go-tos. They know how to work with me. I know how to work with them. But initially, it's just it falls on you as the team lead, right? If you structure tasks well and your tasks are detailed enough, has information, has appropriate scope and timing, then you'll know if Jenny's on task and Fred isn't. Fred can't go off task because his task is so specific to what he needs to do. Now, this is not always so easy to do. It takes a lot of time to create a really detailed task. I joke sometimes, like, I could probably develop this feature faster than I could write the task for it. But where people end up forgetting is you do that, but now you own that feature. Anytime there's a problem, you as Mr. CTO or Mrs. CTO, you're the one that needs to go and actually fix this. So by letting Fred or Alicia or whoever else is on your team tackle that, you're going to empower them to continue to own this piece of code. It might take a little longer. It might take a little bit more of your effort, but in the long run, it's going to free more of your time.
Right.
So I know, CEOs, they might not be that technical. So you're kind of the layer between the technical architecture of the company and someone who doesn't necessarily know what any of that means. So like, how do you effectively communicate with somebody who, they have this important role in the company, they're the head of the company, but they may not know any of what you're talking about?
Right.
Yeah. Again, I'm super spoiled. The CEOs I work with are excellent partners for 10 plus years. They understand, like they'll set the precedent. Like, hey, we need this to do this. We need Unvault to analyze all stocks and get to the solution. And they let me as a CTO determine the technical architecture to get to that. Where they come in again is once I have something working, an MVP, a prototype, they'll review it and see like, did it address what they wanted to address? And if it didn't, what's missing? And then they can communicate to me what the problem is. And then I communicate to the team on technical ways of us addressing those problems. Now, in my past, I've done a lot of contract work. I've worked with some interesting CEOs, and not all of them understand that. I think a lot of them fall into the same problem any entrepreneur has. You think things should happen faster than it does.
Right.
And being a software engineer and an entrepreneur, I have that problem all the time. I look at workload and like, I could do this faster, but I have to remind myself that, yeah, you could probably do it faster. And it goes back to, then you own this versus let your team execute this. It might take a little longer, but then that they own it and they have more agency over it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key to growth, or else you're just never going to grow. You're going to stagnate, always be the one rushing home to fix the bug when the server crashes instead of being like, hey, Jimmy, can you tackle this? Is it bugging what you did? It's like, oh yeah, it's right here.
Exactly.
Yeah, and really, Jimmy's going to ChatGPT. It's like, how do I fix this bug? It's okay. Like, that's fine. Cool. As long as it gets the solution, it passed your QA test, it gets live, I'm okay with it. I don't mind my engineers using AI tools to speed up their job. I do demand that they understand what they're doing.
I think you're kind of hitting on a good point here where people need to, know what they're doing while you're kind of in the background hovering over, watching over, okay, is Jimmy doing this right? Stacy doing this right? But like you're saying, having them own the whole project or process is extremely important for you as a CTO to watch over the whole thing and say, okay, Johnny did this right. Stacy did this right. And we're moving forward now.
Correct. Your job is to multiply effort across the organization to ensure that you could scale. If you're the one doing everything, any company you're working at is going to have a fixed growth. Like, you can't get past this point because you can't let go of the wheels or empower other individuals or mentor other individuals to fill into these roles.
And I know one thing as developers, we love to build things, but realistically, companies don't pay us just to build projects. Like, it has to translate into revenue in some form or fashion. So like, how do you make sure your technical initiatives are not just like cool projects, but they're always like contributing to the bottom line of a company?
And I think that's like a fundamental responsibility of that CTO, right? You're a C-suite, or even if you're a VP of engineering or technical director, you need to take agency and ownership over the end product of what your company is trying to do. If you're trying to sell Bitcoin mining hash rate, how does this feature enable that, support that, help the users? Or is this feature just something that's going to look cool? In video gaming, making things that look cool, great, all day long. We think that contributes to stickiness, retention. But in most software people are going to be developing, you're building a utility for a business. It's less about how cool it looks and more about how functional it is and addresses the problem. So that's I would say that responsibility is that leadership role, the senior engineer, the CTO, the VP of tech, whoever it is. They need to understand the business case and make sure that's translated into the work that's being done.
So like when building companies, especially integrating technology, you can build products that are consumer facing, but also internal tools that make things more efficient. So like, how much percentage of time do you like allocate to both? Like, I know obviously putting products in front of consumers is most important because that's going to get you the revenue, but you also need to create tools that allow your team to work a lot quicker.
And there's no point generating $10,000 a month in revenue if you're spending 100 hours a week on support tickets because it's not working correctly, and there's no way to manage that. Again, it's up to you. It's each project's different. As a technical lead, this is again your responsibility. You got to think through the flow. You got to push back on the executive team if they're asking for this feature to be added, is like, well, we can't add that feature because we don't have a support infrastructure implemented. A great case in point actually just happened today. We're going through a heat wave in the US, as we all probably know. Our data centers that run our Bitcoin miners are in Texas, Indiana, and Minnesota. All of them are dealing with heat issues. So we do these events where we do like large scale mining for a couple hours. We call them power mining events. But we knew the weather could be an issue. So we warned all our users like, hey, this week's event might have a problem. And guess what? We launched the event. Emergency power curtailment order comes in from the utilities. The miners have to shut down, and the event gets disrupted. We don't have all the hash rate and the power we promised users to get. So luckily, we've thought of this in the past. When me and our engineers initially built the system, we're like, hey, at some point in the future, we're going to have a power mining event that's going to fail for whatever reason. We need to have a one-button refund where we can click a button and it'll refund all the users participating. So then we're not sitting there going through the database, manually giving people credits back and spending 3 hours of our time doing it. And today was the first time we had to use that. Heat wave hit, power curtailment happened. Shoot out a message to the user base. Oh, sorry, this happened. We'll make it up with an extra event next week. We shut the event down. We click refund. Everyone gets their money back. And it's a good user experience. We had one support ticket out of the 8,000 users we had, which was great. So
that's amazing. That's amazing.
That's like the forethought. And we spent time building that feature, even though it's not a direct revenue earner, but we know a good customer service experience will lead to better sales, retention, and users.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
So I know at the core of being an engineer, we love to solve problems.
Yes.
But realistically, there's limited time and resources. We can't solve everything. So like you mentioned, your CEO, sometimes you have to give pushback. But if it's an initiative that he really wants and you don't necessarily feel like you're able to handle that, or you don't have the resources or whatever, like how do you push back against like your higher ups and, not isolate them or, make them, get angry with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's cadence and honesty. Like, if the feature can't be done, you're just doing yourself a disservice by saying yes now and no tomorrow. You gotta be upfront. Be like, hey, look, let me take this back. Let me review it with the team. Let's see if there's another alternative. But if there isn't, I'm going to come back to you and tell you we can't do this in this time frame or with this budget. It's hard conversations to have. People are going to get angry and upset. Some people have big feelings, big emotions. You just kind of have to sometimes take one for the team. You got to be that blunt shield, taking the hits from the executive team or the product design team, but you got to stand strong. You're a engineering lead. You're protecting and supporting that team behind you. They will thank you for it and work harder for you isolating and like taking that information and then making their job easier. So in this type of role, that's absolutely what you do. I'm in a really fortunate position. My co-founders are excellent when I'm not in the CEO role. But lucky, for example, I'm CEO, so the only person to yell at is myself. It's great. But
so your CEO and your CTO.
At the moment, I'm currently working on bringing in an engineer from my past that will take over the CTO roles.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. This was, like I said, Skunkworks project started last August. So it's like, oh, well, I guess I'm CEO on this one. Did I lose you guys?
Okay, yeah, I'm
Kev,
here.
Can you hear us?
Peter from.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Let me come back in.
You said you're going to come back in? Okay. But no, it's interesting when you're talking about like you're the CEO, you're also the CTO. So it's kind of like you're watching over the development team and you're saying, okay, this can be done, that can be done. But then also as a CEO, you're saying, okay, well, this needs to be done.
payroll needs to happen. It's a horrible situation to be in. I don't recommend it. Like I said, right now, this company started as an idea and it's blossomed into an amazing business. So at this point, we're scaling up teams and I have to offload these responsibilities to others, and that's fine. I think we have a good basis.
What was the initial idea? What was the initial thing that like pushed this whole process forward?
Oh, I was the Bitcoin miner back there. Made my office too hot. I was like, this is not going to work. But I still wanted to mine Bitcoin. So I was like, the engineer in me is like, we could solve this. And that exploded into what Lucky is today, which is absolutely incredible.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, you've been using AI for several years, and as we've seen, it's like increased in orders of magnitude in terms of capabilities. Like what are you able to do now that you weren't a few years ago? And also looking into the future, what do you think you'll be able to do that you can't do now with AI?
I think my efficiency as an engineer has increased 100-fold, maybe 10-fold, but like 100 sounds better. But no, it really has increased. Like understanding, I'm really able to apply the years of experience I've had developing software, creating tools and systems to support both myself and our other engineers. And it's enabling me to be a more aggressive entrepreneur. Again, 2 years ago or before like general AI was available, no way I would be CTO of 2 companies. Yeah, not possible.
Not possible.
Like I would be exhausted. I would die. But now it's like, okay, well, it's challenging, but like it is possible. Like we could leverage these tools to really help execute on multiple companies and have multiple disciplines. It probably is not sustainable, probably not something I'd recommend anyone else to try to do, but crazy me, it's been 10 years as an entrepreneur. I'm like, let's give this a shot. If I had to do this again, probably pick 1 or 2 horses and stick with that instead of trying to do multiple things. But it's exciting. I feel like everyone has this right now. The reason you stay up all night working with Claude Code is you see there's something amazing here. You don't want to miss that opportunity. You just want to capture it. And that's the .com boom all over again. That's the opportunity we have as software engineers, entrepreneurs, solo developers right now. Is like build. Think about what you really wanted and start looking at how you could build it. Maybe vibe coding won't get you to a final product. Maybe I'd actually highly recommend don't think it'll get you to a final product. Last thing you want to do is launch your grand idea and have it crash and lose your customers, get a bad reputation. But have it build you a prototype, show it to some friends, and maybe look at local angel groups. Look to see if you get some investments. That's the way I'd approach it.
In terms of investments, entrepreneurs, like how do they? Let's just say they have a cool idea, they're able to use the AI to build their app. How are they able to like realistically get funding when they may not have these connections to these venture capitalists? You kind of
good question. Very good question.
That's the $1 million question, literally and figuratively there. Again, I got super lucky and super fortunate with my co-founders. They've helped immensely in that process. So I've never had to bootstrap this myself. Actually, Lucky was the first one where I kind of went out and led that fundraising initially myself and got lucky. I went through my family and found someone that introduced me to an investor who really liked the project and gave us the initial seed to get started. And I think that's probably key. Like, it's uncomfortable to ask family and friends, but if you really have an idea, you really think it's great, and that's the route. Like every entrepreneur I know started there. $5,000 from mom and dad, $1,000 from their siblings, and they get their prototype up and running, and they go to the races. The other thing though is it's also really cheap to run software these days. You could use Netify and have something running very inexpensively. Just depends on the skill and what you're trying to do. Don't feel afraid of launching a product. I know this is slightly contrary to what I just said. Launch a product under the prototype, under the beta, under the alpha banner. So make clear to users this is not final so that you don't get that negative feedback. Don't try to pretend this is like Gmail when it's really not. If you're honest with users, they're great. Like even with Lucky right now, we're still in beta. It's a pretty polished product, but I know there's limitations. I know there could be scaling issues if we grow to 100,000 users, for example, today. If we were 100,000 users tomorrow, we might have a problem, but we're controlling our growth, controlling our scale. We have the right backdoors to kind of hit a stop. If 15,000 people sign up tomorrow, the system will pause signups until we have a chance to scale and expand. But those are the things, as a seasoned developer, I've thought through and I've implemented, where if you're a vibe coder, you're just getting started, these are things that don't cross your mind. But what you can do is set expectations correctly. This is beta software.
We're talking about scale, right? We're talking about thinking about in ahead of time, thinking about the scale of the company, right?
Yep, that's exactly right.
So for like budding entrepreneurs, they got the cool product, they got a little bit of funding, but none of that matters if you can't get anybody to use it. So like, what are some good ways to market on a limited budget? Like, how would you pitch your app to not clients, but people to actually use it?
This is the one I don't have a great answer for. If you had an answer, I'd do it myself. We have this problem with every product we launch. Marketing is tricky.
Marketing.
All you can do is post some videos in social media, buy some Google ads, test, and see if people are interested in your product. One thing that I've learned working with my other co-founders who are serial entrepreneurs and have had some success is fail fast. Like, look at the data. If the data is telling you no one's downloading it, don't spend another $1 million adding a feature. Consider, why aren't you getting any downloads? If you are getting a few downloads and no one's converting to payers, now it's like, all right, people are finding it. They find it interesting. Why won't they pay for it? Ask the right questions, and don't chase like your vision. Let the market dictate what their vision should be.
Awesome. Brian, do you have any closing questions?
I guess I like to ask this every now and then to our guests, for our listeners specifically, is that if you were to go back in time and meet yourself as, 14, 15-year-old, just getting into high school, and you're not really sure what you're trying to do, but like, what would be that main tip that you would give yourself? Hey, watch out for this, or hey, go down this road. What would that look like for you?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot. Other than buy Google stock, Fazri, don't be an idiot.
Well, yeah, right.
Honestly, I always think back to that turning point, that fork in the road I had in college of not finishing my degree in software engineering. And it made it extremely difficult to get that first job. Like, again, I'm not even exaggerating when I said I had 80 interviews over 3 years trying to get a junior software developer role. And it was brutal. Like, I quickly saw how ill-equipped I was after every interview, after every programming test. I had to go back and then like, all right, I got to learn this better. I need to do this. It was really, really difficult. And if I had finished my degree in software engineering, I think that would have been a lot easier for me. But in retrospect, would I have the same skill set that I have right now that makes me a good entrepreneur? I don't know.
It's interesting.
It's hard to say. I would say probably finish my degree in software engineering, but I don't know. I remember those early years, and that was brutal, and it was hard. And at least back then, if I had, I'd come out and probably work at a FANG and have a pretty good, cushy life. But would I be an entrepreneur? Would I be pursuing these cool projects?
Yeah,
would I got to speak at the Star Trek convention for one of my games? No, maybe. Then none of that might have happened. So
yeah.
Hard to say.
That's a huge question. When I think back to me with tech, I went to a coding boot camp, like, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, went down the Java Spring track, wasn't getting hired. My mentor said, okay, go out and learn React, go out and learn Angular, put projects on your GitHub. So I did all of this. And then finally, once I put React projects on the GitHub, I started to get hit back by employers who were wanting to hire me. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of all that hindsight. It's like, okay, if I knew X, would I have done this? Well, maybe, but maybe not. Like you're saying, would you still be the entrepreneur that you are today had you finished that software education? Yeah, it's a really good question.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. So I'd probably play it safe. If I went back in time right now, I'd tell 14-year-old Fazri, buy Google and don't sell it. And Bitcoin, buy lots of
Yeah.
Buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's the dream. Like if you know you just have millions of dollars and you can do whatever you want without financial pressure.
That's why we're entrepreneurs. That's what we're shooting for.
But no, we definitely appreciate you joining us, man. Before we get out of here, did you have any closing thoughts for our audience, and what's the best way for them to connect with you at?
Yeah, luckily my name's really easy to find. I don't think you could Google another Fazri Zubair out there, but I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to me there. Happy to connect. If anyone has any questions, connect with me. Let me know that you heard me on this podcast, and happy to share some advice. The only other closing thoughts I have is like, building software is hard. It's really scary today. Don't let social media make you worry that all the ideas are taken or everyone's vibe coding. Don't fall under those social pressures. Like, think of something that you effectively want done and then look at AI and how it can help you build that. I think that's really important. And if you're interested in Bitcoin mining, check out lucky.net.
Awesome.
Gotta throw a plug in there.
Right.
And, I'd like to thank everybody